I love building brands. I love being on a team, and I love to win. I think marketing is at the center of how you grow, how brands grow. There's very much marketing that's creative. It's the thing people think about the most. Super Bowl behind us, it's the big ads. But at the end of the day, marketing is intended to invite new people to your brand and your business. It's really tapping into whatever's motivating them and compelling them to buy one more, buy another, share with their friend. Marketing and brand building very much is sales enablement and how you create loyalty and how you grow brands. And she showed me a Black Enterprise magazine. She said, all these women are being so successful in media and advertising. Like, I think you would do well here. And I said, okay, that sounds good. Changed my major, was invited to participate in an internship at Procter Gamble. And that's kind of how I got into marketing. So it's really a story of people making bets on me.
Today, I get the pleasure of sitting down with Elicia Azali, CMO of Beazer Homes, one of the leading high-efficiency home builders in America. We see someone who's held leadership positions across AmFam, The General, P&G. Just an amazing person representing Northeast Ohio. As a guy that played in Cleveland, have so much love for everybody from Northeast Ohio. We see someone who has not shied away from their ambitions, while at the same time has not compromised taking care of her family or herself. We'll get a peek into how you lead across different organizations, how you lead across different markets, and how you lead yourself as you're going through different phases of life. So we share something in common, Northeast Ohio.
East Ohio.
I got a lot of love for Ohio, OH.
I all day.
Tell me about growing up in Northeast Ohio, small town, young ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Oberlin, Ohio. I think on a good day, there's 8,500 people there.
Oh, wow.
Hardworking people. And it's not my favorite memory, but a memory that sticks out is my dad had a second job to clean Head Start buildings. Head Start buildings are childcare, right?
Yep.
And I would go there with him after school. And my job was to vacuum the main floor and change the trash.
Okay. Did you vacuum with a line strip?
I'm making lines. I'm like 9 years old, very proud of the lines in the vacuum.
Right.
This idea of hard work, like you're rolling up your sleeves, is very much a Northeast Ohio thing. It's very much like who I am. If you want to be great at something, it takes hard work. It takes extra. And the second thing I learned is like kids are super dirty and nasty. And so when you're changing the trash cans, age 9, you're like, okay, this is gross. But honestly, just that work ethic, the tenacity, if you've been to Cleveland or, nearby Cleveland, that permeates the city. So for sure, without a doubt, like that's in me every day.
This is pre-social media, pre-internet. How do you dream of what you want to become in this big world, coming from a small town, not really getting exposed to a lot?
I don't think I knew any better. I would say a lot of people kind of pushed and, guided me. Growing up, I couldn't even dream bigger than what I saw. And I moved to Columbus in middle school and just had people who, for whatever reason, just decided to, extend an arm or, an invitation. And I, grew up a little fearless and said, okay, I'll do that. Right. And so I can rattle off names. Mary Tucker, who told me to change my major to marketing. She showed me a Black Enterprise magazine. She said, all these women are being so successful in media and advertising. Like, I think you would do well here. And I said, okay, that sounds good. Changed my major, was invited to participate in an internship at Procter Gamble. And that's kind of how I got into marketing. So it's really a story of people making bets on me.
Are you at Ohio State at this time when you get the internship?
I was at Ohio State, the Ohio State University. I have to. In Ohio, it was more about kind of building the tenacity, the fearlessness to try things new and not be afraid of failure. And then in undergrad or other spaces, just a story of people making bets on me.
You're in marketing, you find your way to P&G, which is one of the more storied companies in the US or the world. How do you know whether to just stay there and just continue to build your career or start to branch out and explore new opportunity?
Yeah. So let me paint the picture of how I showed up at P&G, because there's not like my most famous moments. I'm 22 from Northeast Ohio. I don't come from a family who has, lots of corporate experience or exposure. Again, very hardworking people. And my peers are people who went to Kellogg and UPenn, and maybe they've played a sport and, this is their second career. And then there's me.
Hmm.
And so I remembered, being pretty insecure about how do I show up in this space, and I would kinda do what they were doing for a while. So I'd meet him at the water,
Hmm.
"Let's play golf, let's go drink a beer," and I did that for I tried to just kinda fit in, and I didn't do it very successfully because, like, that's not really
Uh-huh.
who I was. And I remember thinking, "I should just be myself."
Uh-huh.
I should just be the girl from a small town who's significantly younger than people, who has a lot of sort of cultural differences, and just say those things that, like, recognizing the things that might have made me different, the things that might have made me feel a little smaller in the space were actually the things that gave me power in those moments.
But is there a lot of risk that comes with that? Because you didn't see it growing up, and this is a method that kind of works. How do you toe the line between bringing more of yourself versus fitting into this well-oiled machine?
Yeah, I mean, super tricky, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was easier for me back there then because I had less to lose,
Uh,
except for me feeling good about how I was showing up every day.
yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't make that same decision now because
Yeah.
I've got a lot more to lose. But in that moment, it felt like I was not honoring who I was. And after a while, that gets old. The other thing is the market was changing, and so this idea that the next generation is going to be the most diverse
Mhm.
than we've ever seen, and so then I'm like, "Oh, okay, so there's business value in me representing who I am and being that voice of the younger consumer or, of the African American or whatever,
Mhm.
the female in the room."
Yeah.
And so then you start to say, "Okay, so when I dial into those things that make me different, that's actually the customer we're serving."
Yeah.
And I can be a voice of reason or authority in a space that, if you're 50 years old and haven't lived that life, that you're just learning.
I think there's been a central theme though. Is I keep learning is people are winning being themselves. Like they're trusting whatever God's wired them to be,
Mm.
and they're taking risk where it makes sense across the board. It seems like that's the case for you as well.
Yeah. And I would say, calculated
Mm.
risks, right? When you start a new thing or if go to a new organization, you need to out the gate know what problem you're solving for
Uh-huh.
them. Why are they inviting you into their organization?
Mhm.
And the second part of that is culture. You have to understand, how do they make decisions? What are their hours of operation? What do they value? How do they award winning and how do they recognize when you don't win?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then ask yourself, do I fit into that authentically? Like, can I be who I am in an environment like that? And so, yeah, there's a risk part of it, but it's also being pretty clear on who you are
Mhm.
first, and then being able to assess, like, can I be that version of me in that environment?
Yeah. I think your career is like very interesting because you've P&G, AmFam, General, now Beazer. How have you made decisions to pursue these different opportunities or grow into these opportunities where your scope has changed and you get a chance to sit at an executive level now?
My first, career stop was Procter& Gamble, and they have very much a philosophy of general management. You own, the brand.
Hmm.
Um,
Which brands did you have?
Charmin and Bounty,
Sharon about
Quicker,
yeah.
Picker Upper.
Uh-huh. That's
Shout
a
out.
cool jingle though.
Yeah. Um, and, when you're trained from the beginning to think about the brand holistically, I, often describe myself as a business person who believes in brands and that brands drive growth
Uh-huh.
and sort of not the other way around. And so I've sort of just chased that idea. So at Nationwide, I was a specialist in advertising or, partnership marketing or channel marketing. And there came a point where I was like, I want to put it back together. Like I
Mhm.
want to be able to see the impact of my choices, more horizontally.
Mhm.
And so then was invited to join the general. And so I think it requires honest reflection on who you are and what does it look like when you're at your best.
Mhm.
Um, but also, a balance of making sure you acquire the right experiences to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the tricky part is because sometimes you might be, not completely there,
Hmm.
and that fear of failure, you just have to lean into it. Like I don't know if I was necessarily ready for every job that I,
Hmm.
raised my hand for. And so being okay with making mistakes kind of publicly or in front of people,
Yeah.
I think that's a part of it.
And how do you learn what those, I guess, key things or traits or experiences that you need? Because I'm still learning
Yeah.
a lot about the roles of what people have to be able to say, okay, I'm good in marketing, but then now I'm good in brand. Now I'm good in advertising. The collection of that makes everything come together. Who's putting these pieces together for you? Just figuring it out.
I often tell people like have a career passport.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to get as many stamps and as many different types of experiences that I can,
That's good.
so that I can, one, be able to answer for myself, like which one of these stops did I feel like, I was my best at, I enjoyed, I had value to. And some of them you're like, I did that, but I don't know if I necessarily need to go back there again,
Mhm.
And so especially early on, being, kind of collecting those passport stamps, just having the breadth of experiences, doing a lot of things, it then allows you to be able to sort of intelligently say, I like more of that,
Uh-huh.
or I don't really want to do that again.
Yeah.
Um, and and then there's still some unknown,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you just sort of have to um, jump in.
Are you thinking, coming from Northeast Ohio, where your family's working and you're vacuuming? Are you thinking I just want to stabilize my family and get a good job, or I want to go for it and reach the highest level of my potential at the top?
Not to sound crass, but there was probably the first 7 to 10 years I was like, I don't like to be broke.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like it or not, that's what fueled me,
Hmm.
I didn't want to vacuum those rugs again or change those,
That's
trash
that's a
cans.
good lesson.
And I didn't have to learn that too, I didn't have to stay with me too long. And I think it's a bit higher order now, like the North Star changes a bit. But certainly when and we I shouldn't characterize, we had meals every day,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was great, but we worked,
You had to earn it.
um,
Yeah.
and we earned it,
Yeah.
and I know what that felt like, and I didn't wanna always feel like, that way,
Yeah.
and so I was certainly motivated by just financial success, and then when you get a little bit of it, you're like, "Okay, now what motivates me?" And then for me, a lot of it was I love building brands, I love being on a team, and I love to win.
Hmm.
And so that gives you a little bit of breath to say, okay, that I can lean into that in different ways, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the athlete's journey too. If you see individuals more rough around the edges and they're pursuing this thing, and then once they get a chance to kind of stabilize
Right.
thing, then they have a little bit more time to make strategic decisions of, okay, I can actually grow into
Yes.
what I'm trying to become. Um, what's the hardest part of joining a new industry? Because Procter and Gamble is very different than
Yes.
insurance, very different than home building. How do you get caught up to speed on these new industries and learn what you need to know?
At the end of the day, every company is a marketing, and this is my opinion, a marketing or sales company that sells whatever they're talking about.
Hmm.
So you have to get to know the customers. Any industry, it doesn't matter what business you're in. Who's your customer? And getting proximate to them, knowing how they make decisions, knowing what's important to them. Like that is to me that the number one most important thing about making a transition to an industry. If you don't know who you serve,
Mhm.
and in that instance it's customers, um, like you can't you won't be successful in my opinion,
Yeah,
because ultimately you're trying to convince them, compel them, convey to them what's important about, what's different about, what's better about what that brand brings to the table. You can't do that if you don't understand. It's really, it truly comes down to people, and I would say the second thing is you kind of what we were talking about before. Organizations do have different cultures.
mhm,
So you can know the customers and know the business, but you also have to know how decisions are made.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so that's a really, especially as an executive, really important for you to spend some time understanding, is this a written or a verbal culture? Should I be sending emails or should I set up time to talk?
yeah, yeah,
How are decisions made? Is it expected that I walk into a room and agree with the most senior person, or am I allowed to dissent in that moment? Like
uh-huh,
those little nuances early in a new transition are important for you to really, really understand.
yeah, and how does that match with your leadership? style? If you're leading a different team, I'm sure the team that you have here may be slightly different in just their cadence and their culture. How do you understand how your leadership style maps on your
Yeah.
people?
I love that because it truly is, a time to get to know who's on the team, what they bring to the table. And there's some things about my leadership style or anyone's leadership style that that's, this is what I bring, you know. And then there's certain things that when you kind of have to meet the moment, you have to meet the team where they are and then say, how do I adjust to make sure that that team or that individual is successful? So just, by way of, storytelling, I really believe understanding where we're going, so creating a real clear vision of what it looks like when we get there
Mhm.
is pretty important for an executive, uh, pretty quickly out the gate. Pe
1000%.
people need to know, "Okay, where are you going? And then can I see myself, on that vision?" First 60, 90 days, being able to cast forward, "Hey, this is what it looks like." And then enroll them like, "Okay, now let's make sure that you see yourself as a part of that."
How do you create a brand story as an outsider though? Is your, home building, uh,
Yeah.
insurance, like these are very different things. And how long does it take to cast this vision? How do you collaborate with others who may, feel that they have longer time in that industry
Yeah.
to figure out that brand story that is going to shape everything else?
Is You have to be a really good listener. It's like caring for somebody else's child that you're trying to raise.
Yeah.
Like, Beazer has been around for, a really long time, over 60 years. History from England, hundreds of years ago. That's not my child.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I have to understand the history. I have to understand the stories that have existed. I have to understand the culture, what makes it different, what makes it the same. It's a discipline around listening for months, truly, and bringing other people, inviting other people in
Yeah.
to feel like they're shaping the story as well. So I would say it's less about me necessarily being the one who's defining the story
Mm.
and more of the, the curator of the story.
Yeah.
Um, and inviting others to feel like they are a part of it too.
Mhm.
You'll always feel like a bit more ownership if you left your thumbprint on something.
Yeah. I I'm I love talking to marketers and brand. I had a guy, Lars, a really good friend, explain it to me. This whole rule of pi. You've heard that?
I have,
Performance, image, exposure.
yeah,
There's like performance 10%, image 20%, exposure is the 70%. And I just think it's fascinating, just what y'all are doing and shaping things and getting in things. But talk about this, like the importance of that actually driving business value. Because
yeah.
for a long time, marketing was the cute thing and not the thing of how have you seen that evolve throughout your career to
I think marketing is at the center of how you grow,
Mhm,
how brands grow. And there's very much marketing that's creative. It's the thing people think about the most.
mhm,
Super Bowl behind us. It's the
mhm,
big ads. But at the end of the day, marketing is intended to invite new people to your brand and your business.
yeah,
And so whether you're an online business or you've got a retail storefront, it's really tapping into whatever is motivating them and compelling them to, buy one more, buy another,
mhm,
share with their friend. And so to me,
yeah.
marketing and brand building very much is sales enablement and how you create loyalty and how you grow brands.
You're tasked not just doing this in Atlanta. You're
No.
tasked with figuring out how to lead and speak to people across different regions, which is vastly different. Northeast Ohio is very different than Atlanta,
Yes.
very
Amen.
different than Charlotte, even though we're proximal. How do you figure that out and keep yourself abreast? Or is the formula the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down back to people, right?
Mhm,
And so, if you've got a message on affordability, the way I talk about affordability in the Atlanta market might be different than Houston.
mhm,
And so it's kind of testing and iterating how does that message really work? It doesn't mean you change your brand.
mhm,
If your brand is about affordability or energy efficiency, I'm not going to waver who I am to kind of fit, but I am going to adjust to make sure that when we're talking and when I'm reaching out to you that I'm positioning myself in a way that's tapping into something that I know you're interested in.
yeah, yeah,
So for the topic of energy efficiency, it will certainly save you money.
mhm,
It's also good for the environment.
yeah, yeah,
And so depending on if I'm in DC Where if I'm in Houston, I might toggle that up or down depending on what the
Yeah.
benefit is to that customer. So it's really just understanding who they are,
Mhm.
but you still don't want to waver on your brand. But the meeting them with a compelling message that resonates is important.
I guess time for a shameless plug. Just explain just Beazer and just the dynamics
Yeah,
around it and
sure.
what all y'all do. And
Yeah, we're a national home builder, publicly traded. We very much specialize in homes that are the most energy efficient. We believe that the cost of home ownership, whether that's through our mortgage program, insurance, and just how we build over time, is kind of more affordable. It's more higher quality. The air is better.
Mhm.
It's a more comfortable live.
Yeah.
And so, take a lot of pride in that quality construction,
Uh-huh.
but also being in cities that matter and building, communities that matter and really inspiring sustainable and healthy living.
Communities are everything. If you grow up in a good community, good home, gives you a chance to succeed in life. Probably increases the odds a lot.
Yeah, it's a difference maker. Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about doing the easy things right. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, y- you know, and a lot of what I talk about with the boys too, my
Mhm.
children, you got to show up on time.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
the energy that you bring into the room matters a great deal. Act like you want to be there.
Hmm.
In some ways you've got to look like you want to be there.
Yeah.
If you're going to a football game, you wear your jersey.
Hmm.
If you're going to, a dinner, you probably might want to dress a little differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is not an authenticity conversation. You still be who you are in all those spaces, but if you commit to someone to do something, just follow through.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you cover the basics, you can make it for a long time,
Mhm.
just treating people well. I mean,
Yeah.
my goodness, if you're just kind to people and you're listening to people, those things I think get you really far. But honestly, they're sometimes overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like let's get back to the things that are maybe basic, but I think super important as well.
Yeah. And talk about your boys, just motherhood as a whole. You have 4 boys and you're an executive.
Yeah, every
One
day.
child is a lot. How do you navigate it all to be able to give them the time and attention that they need and also give work the time and attention it needs, but then also find time and attention for
Yeah.
yourself so you don't burn out?
I get asked this question often,
Mhm.
as you can imagine, because it like the existing of 4 kids and a executive career is rare. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I don't have it figured out, I would say is the first thing.
Mhm.
But in my mindset about it is still, this is the life I chose.
Yep.
This is the life I dreamed of. I've
Uh-huh.
always wanted to have a big family. I've always been ambitious, and finding gratitude for being able to live that life is like job number one.
Yeah.
The second thing is I am constantly evaluating priorities almost in real time in every moment.
Mhm.
Should I fold this laundry, help this homework, respond to this email? I have like mastered being able to decide what the most important thing is
Yeah.
all the time. It sounds exhausting. It kind of is,
Yeah.
but that is required, I think, for
Mhm.
for the life that I am.
Yeah.
It's being very intentional around kind of what it looks like in 10 years and like being clear on, okay, well then this is the decision I'm going to make, in real time. So
Yeah.
in this season of life, my boys are a little older. Commutes to wherever they're going, whether that be school or sports, is really important one-on-one time.
Mhm.
So how do I adjust my work life in a way that allows me to play in those spaces where I can still be there for them, I can drive them to school, and late night I can work on homework,
Mhm.
but also still show up the way I need to show up and evaluating that in real time, sort of all the time.
You said something interesting earlier where it was like, I can't come home and say I'm too tired to do this, but then I also can't show up at the office and say I'm too tired because I was doing this.
That's right.
And just the mustering up of that energy, where does that come from?
Yeah, that's that mindset,
Yeah.
and I think it's just being sort of competitive by nature and
Mm.
I always want to do my best.
Yeah.
The Four Agreements is one of my favorite books, and
Mhm.
that's like the fourth one. Always do your best. Every day, try to live into that. And so what that means is, and Mo and I live on the same street, so you'll
Yeah.
often see me,
I see y'all.
maybe even in work clothes. I'm
Mhm.
I'm throwing a football. I'm
Mhm.
throwing a baseball.
Yeah.
I'm
You
I'm
got a good
I'm
arm
I'm
too.
running. Hey,
Yeah.
uh, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
L because I know it's important for them, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that weren't their thing, that we would be doing whatever their thing was. For them, that's how I can create a connection relationship with them, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm all in."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you talk about your mom just to kind of carry motherhood through. Talk about the importance of your mom, seeing her journey,
Yeah.
uh, And she's a doctor now.
She is a doctor now. She is a doctor now. So Dr. Mom or Dr. Grammy,
Yeah.
we grew up together. We're literally 19 years apart.
Uh-huh.
And she studied her undergraduate degree for 10 years.
Mhm.
And I remember like I graduated before her, but she was like, I'm still going after this thing.
Yeah.
And it was not just that she did it, it was how she did it. I remember she would put Post-it notes with different quotes in our bathroom or around the house, to dream the impossible dream.
Mhm.
And I'm sure a part of it was for us, but it was likely also for her.
Yeah.
But what it did was, kind of compel that your current circumstance isn't necessarily where you end up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this idea that you can continue to dream and evolve who you are
Mhm.
at every stage of life. So in 2020, she completed her PhD program.
How old was she?
She was in mid 50s. But, she had just got her undergraduate degree in her 40s.
Wow, wow.
So, think about a person who grew up in small time Ohio, had 3 children,
Mhm.
been married, unmarried, the whole thing, and said, Still, this is not my story. My
Yeah, yeah,
story's not done." And
yeah.
so she travels to Africa 2 or 3 times a year, helps develop their social work program in different universities across Africa. She's still kinda writing her
Yeah,
book, and I just think that's super powerful, for me to see, for the kids to see that,
yeah.
sort of whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she imagined herself, doing these things when she was younger, but I'm grateful that she kept going.
And I imagine that you can pull a tremendous amount of strength from her when you're feeling tired and you're feeling. I think it's always important to have a reference point for, man, whenever I'm in this situation, I have something to look forward to.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. I chose this life,
Mhm.
and so how dare I be too tired to,
Yeah.
throw the ball? And that's not to say I do it perfectly any day, every day, but like that's the mindset is
Mhm.
I can do that
Mhm.
and muster up the energy and think back to, people who have done it for me.
So now you, like your mom, still have a lot of runway to continue to grow. But how have you redefined your purpose with time and as you reach new levels and you kind of get exposed to new things of what's possible?
I want to share a story because it's kind of related to purpose, but I promise I'll get back to
Go
that.
for it.
But a couple years ago, I was interviewing for a big job.
Mhm.
And it was one of those things that you're like, man, if this happens, like that'll be
Yeah.
game changer,
Mhm.
right? Like I ended up working super hard, was down to the final two. I didn't get it.
Mhm.
Bummed, right? Super disappointed. You're like, man, what could I have done differently? That sort of thing. And then a few weeks passed, and I talked to a friend, and they were like, I'm kind of glad that you didn't get it. And I was like, well, that's curious. Why?
Well, yeah, tell me more.
And they were like, "Well, you might have went to the moon and forgot about us." We've been talking about dreaming and purpose and vision, and I also think it's important to talk about sort of the circle you keep
Mhm.
and making sure that the people who hear you express your dream
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are are all in on helping you get there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't think that was an intentionally mean thing to say, but fear sat behind that comment,
Uh-huh.
you know? And so, it's part being clear on your dream, but there's a big part of it is just making sure that that community you've created and who and like just knowing, who you can let your guard down with and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this thing," is
And,
with you.
but I guess before you answer the first question, how do you then, because there's some survivor's guilt in there where not everybody can go and you still want to keep going wherever your God-given potential is, which you have love for these people, but then you're meeting new people along the way that are trying to elevate with you. How do you rectify that tension right
I
there?
mean, isn't that hard? That's a lot to
That's
balance.
a lot.
And I think it goes back to your original question, which is around purpose.
Uh-huh.
And that's a question that only you can answer for yourself and be clear around, okay, so this is what it looks like, down in 10 years or 5 years, or this is how I feel, when I lay my head down at night. Like, am I
Yeah.
am I going to feel good about how I was in pursuit of that vision and that purpose? That doesn't mean it's a linear path.
Uh-huh.
So, there might be moments, especially as a mother, where I have to kind of take a sidestep to make sure that, um, that I balance the entirety of the purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm, abandoning that purpose, but being wise enough to know that life is it's a series of decisions and not
Mhm.
just one straightforward.
What from your past helps you succeed right now?
I would say it kind of goes back to that first story we talked about, which is hard work.
Hard work.
Like I'm not afraid to do the work. I'm
What does hard work actually mean
yeah.
these days? Because you can spend a lot of time doing stuff, but how do you work hard effectively?
Yeah, curiosity actually is the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's, because again, I'm helping to set direction on where we want to go, but you need to be clear on what problem we're trying to solve
Mm.
first, and that requires a little bit of like, okay, so what's happening here? You
Yeah.
kind of have to take a step back and make sure that you really are clear on what problem you're trying to solve.
Mhm.
Then it's people.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything by myself.
Mhm.
Like they're standing on the shoulders of giants. There's, lots of people behind me and making sure that they, trust where you're headed
Yeah, yeah,
and they understand what success looks like,
yeah.
and they feel like their voice is a part of, a part of the equation and a part of helping you win and
Mm.
that, seeing it as a team.
Yeah.
I'm not vacuuming anymore, thank
Yeah.
God. But it's, being accountable when we lose.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's hard work
That's hard to
to
sit in there and take
sit in
those.
there and say, "That's on me."
Mhm.
I often have to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
So it just looks different, I think, but it still requires a level of intensity.
Gotcha. And, would you do anything differently?
For sure. Um, but what, maybe not. One of my favorite quotes is the world is unfolding as it should.
Yeah, yeah.
And sort of a belief that like even with mistakes, like this is
Mhm.
how God, this is how life,
Yeah.
sort of intended to be.
It all gives you
It
perspective.
all gives you
It
perspective.
all gives you
I
perspective.
mean, you can sit and you can think back, like, what would I have done differently? But that would have, like, but we're
Alter.
here now.
Yeah. It all you can't do anything about it
No.
if you wasted energy.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
What were your thoughts on Northeast Ohio?
I think Northeast Ohio has some of the best people in the world. Super loyal. I keep in contact with a lot of them still to this day, consider them really good friends.
Mm.
Uh, Working class people who don't need or want much, just, be good to me. Um, don't get in my way. Let me live, a meaningful life. Uh, the weather was tough.
Weather is tough.
I tell you a crazy story. When I left Georgia, we get drafted end of April, and get up there, let's say the first week of May. I'm leaving Georgia in shorts and like a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't even check the weather. I get to Ohio, it's like 40 degrees and raining. Everybody's looking like, who's this idiot?
Who's this guy?
And so the weather was a culture shock, but you just kind of figure it out. But it's an amazing time in life, amazing people that I got a chance to meet, still consider friends to this day. So
You find an Ohio person, you should keep them close.
I geek out when I see somebody that has Cleveland Brown stuff
Yeah.
or somebody's from Ohio, and I may pass somebody randomly and I say OH, and you see that kind of trying to calibrate IO.
It's
So
like the most embarrassing thing I do to my children at
yeah,
any place in the world. If I see somebody wearing Ohio State, I do that.
we got
Uh,
to convert them to Georgia fans though.
well, we shall see.
My neighbor up in Cleveland, whenever Ohio State was playing, would try to invite me to go watch the game. I'm like, bro, Georgia's playing right now. What are you talking about? Nah, but I got a lot of love for Ohio State
That's
though.
I love that.
No, I appreciate though. This was awesome just to kind of hear your perspective on a lot of these different things and know that you're somebody I have a lot of respect for. You, Nate, the entire family, and just keep being awesome, man. Keep
Yeah,
being awesome. You're an
I'm
inspiration.
I'm excited for wherever this journey takes you and
I
happy to be
appreciate.
a small part of it. So
I
I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you thinking of me.
Thank you so much. All
Yeah.
right.